everyone to our Next Gen webinar. We're so excited that everyone is able to join us, especially this early on in the morning. So first off, introductions. My name is Katie Yan, and I'm the founder and CEO of InnovateX.
My name is Lauren Pearl, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer of InnovateX.
My name is Jessica, and I'm the founder of Sparkling.
Yeah, and before we begin, we would like to point out that we have a really international audience today. We have audience members from over 11 countries around the world, so that is super exciting. Yeah, let's move on to our organizations. A little bit about InnovateX. We are a nonprofit organization that is passionate about sparking an appreciation for entrepreneurship within the younger generation.
Yes. We started a few months ago, but we've really taken off since then and have chapters ranging from Maryland to San Diego. So this being said, we've become a nationwide non-for-profit, and we're really excited to see the success that we're having. For 2020 to 2021, we have large plans, including but not limited to having an after-school program for middle and elementary school students to foster a spirit of entrepreneurship early on. We're planning on having a mentorship program for high school students where they can seek advice from successful business people and entrepreneurs. And additionally, an internship opportunity where these high school students have the opportunity to actively go and get business experience in the real world, which we're very excited about. And additionally, we're starting a program called Project Finance, which involves advocacy for consumer economics courses in high school, middle, and elementary schools, as well as advocacy in front of the Board of Education for such issues like this. So we're really excited.
And now a brief introduction about Sparkling. So Sparkling is a startup incubator for teenagers, and we aim to collect creative ideas from teenagers all around the world and help them to realize their creative ideas. So if you're interested in joining us, contact us and sparkle with ideas.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jessica. So now I would like to introduce you today to our panelists. We have panelists from all around the world, and we are very excited about this. So today you'll be hearing from Ms. Carol Ergang, who is the founder of Red Shoes Marketing. You'll be hearing from Mr. TK Caetano, who is the CEO of Yes Africa Yes, and you'll be hearing from Mr. Alex Choi, who is the founder of Game On. This being said, you're not here to listen to me talk, you're here to listen to our amazing panelists. So I'm going to pass it to Carol. Take it away, please.
Thank you so much for inviting me to come. I'm very impressed that almost 40 of you got up so early in the morning to participate in this. That says a lot about your drive and ambition and just your passion for this subject, which I think, it really is now more than ever, we need that sense of entrepreneurship, that sense of innovation, that sense of creativity. And I have a lot of hope on your generation in guiding the future, because boy, do we need help as a world. So I'm betting on all of you. Hopefully I can share some interesting thoughts about my entrepreneurial journey, which has been very, very diverse. And, if you want to ask questions, I guess you can put it in the chat and we can go from there. So I'm going to share my screen and, okay. Okay, so I really do think that, entrepreneurship forever has always been about imagining the future, right? Because it's about, thinking of something that has never been done before. And so I wanted to share a couple of little thoughts with you from my perspective on what does it mean to be an entrepreneur? Well, you sort of need to be a risk taker, right? Because you're going to try something and do something that nobody else has probably done before. You're going to be creating something new that somebody perhaps hasn't done before, or maybe you're going to sort of build on some idea that exists, but you're still taking it to a new place. And to do that well really does require a lot of self-discipline. I know that in my own business, you really have to sort of create a schedule and a discipline about getting the work done and doing it because you're on your own for the most part as an entrepreneur. You may have people supporting you, but it's going to be your vision and your ambition and your self-discipline that's going to bring whatever idea you have to life. And therefore you need to be persistent. You know, you will have many, many, many people tell you, no, no, no. And they'll turn you down and they'll say you shouldn't do this. And they'll give you a million reasons not to do something. If you have that passion and energy in your heart, you need to pursue it. And so persistence and your own personal drive is what's going to take you over the finish line to get your idea to life. And then therefore that means you kind of really need to have a clear sense of where you're going. That doesn't mean that you can't pivot as new ideas come and evolve and so on and so forth, but you really need to have a clear ambition and purpose for where you're trying to take that business. And then that means being decisive and very action oriented, really sort of acting on those ambitions and those opportunities as opposed to just thinking it, right? Thinking great thoughts without action is not very productive. So you have to be in a position where you're actually going to move forward and do things. And then I always think, you know, integrity is important in any situation, but certainly as an entrepreneur, people are going to rely on you and count on you. And so having that integrity is going to be really important. So I thought I would share some famous entrepreneurs. Many of these at the top of the list we know, right? We know the Bill Gateses and the Mark Zuckerbergs. You know, Thomas Edison was an entrepreneur in his day, you know, inventing a lot of things, in particular electricity. The same with Walt Disney. He looked at a lot of swampland in Florida and said, wow, I'd like to imagine something magical here. And he created an entire universe around Disney and the concept of childhood and, you know, family fun. He was an entrepreneur. Obviously, Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos, you know, were entrepreneurs who had an idea and, you know, drove it to an amazing place. But the people at the bottom of the list are also, they're people closer to, you know, you in your age group. Most of these are 20-something-year-olds. You know, Emily Weiss, who was a content creator for a publication, a fashion publication, which she took to create her own blog. And then from her own blog, she created Glossier, which is a beauty brand and a beauty platform that's worth over $1 billion now. Dani Egna, she is a young entrepreneur, also in her 20s. She's created healthy, sustainable tattoos that you can wear and take off with a company called Inked. You know, Heidi Zak created Third Love, the bra company. She found an opportunity in the marketplace to fill a niche that didn't exist, which was more comfortable bras for women. And she built that business, as did Neil and many of his partners at Casper Mattress. They said, why should buying a mattress be so complicated and so difficult? Why don't we make that process easier? Make it, you know, a sort of a one-size-fits-all mattress, put it in a box and send it to your home. Doesn't that sort of sound like a whole lot better than going to one of those, you know, creepy sales rooms with a creepy salesman who's going to sell you something you don't want? Ela is an interesting guy from Russia who created a new way to create artificial limbs. And has a huge business that he works with many governments and medical organizations around the world, also in his 20s. And Madison is a young Black woman who had this ambition to create a fashion brand called The Crated, and she's doing phenomenally well. So being an entrepreneur doesn't mean you have to be Bill Gates. Maybe that's everybody's ambition. Maybe it isn't. But everybody starts somewhere, and they start with taking a risk and having an idea that fills an opportunity in the marketplace that didn't exist before. And that's what all of these people have done phenomenally well. I'll give you a little bit of a sense of my journey. I've worked on a lot of big brands across my experience. So a lot of consumer goods, many of which you probably have in your house or have used. A lot of luxury and beauty brands, many of you probably use as well. Novartis is a big healthcare company. J&J. Actonel is a brand none of you would know because you're far too young, because it's for a disease called osteoporosis, which affects women in their like 70s. So thank goodness none of you will know that brand. I've worked on businesses like LG in the electronic space, Service Simmons in the bedding space, Fidelity, the big investment company, and then in the last few years with some big tech companies, both GoDaddy and most recently at IBM. In between all of that, I also had my own business, Red Shoes Marketing, where I worked with a lot of startups. So on the left side, the You Live Java brand, two women who had this idea around why couldn't coffee be healthier? And they added green tea to the product and enhanced it with some other herbs to create a more healthy, mindful coffee. They had a little bit of success for a couple of years. It's kind of gone a little bit dormant now. OneJet is a small local airline where they found a niche in the market, which is for people who are traveling between very small cities. So maybe Buffalo, New York to Rhode Island, or maybe Cincinnati to, someplace in New Jersey. Small little routes that most of the time big airlines don't want to fly because there's not enough volume. This guy found a way to build an airline to fill those small trips between these very sort of small cities using very small planes. So it feels like you're on a very private jet experience. No plane has more than like 8 people. He charges a very reasonable amount of money. And so now that business person who might have either spent a day traveling in their car to get to a meeting, having their meeting, and then taking another day to travel back, now they can do all of that in one day because this guy has found a way to sort of fill that need in the marketplace. And then the Levy brand that I worked with was a young group of guys from Turkey who had found a way to take chickpeas, which was obviously a very big product grown in Turkey, and they coated them in different flavors of chocolate to make a snack. So it's a more healthful snack. It's actually really very tasty, and they're trying to sort of build that business. You'll find them in some small stores because they're just growing. But all of these people found a opening in the marketplace. They had an idea, they took a risk, and they built these brands. Some are more successful than others, and some are early in their journey, but they're all trying to sort of get to that new place and fill that need and bring their passion and ambition to life. And that's what's driving all of these people. I will say all of these 3 companies that I worked with, the founders, the common thread was they were incredibly passionate, incredibly focused, incredibly decisive, and they just wanted to see their vision and their idea come to life. And they did whatever they had to do to make that happen. And they worked very, very hard, but all of them are seeing their idea come to life in one way or the other. I myself have even started my own business. It was a music business called MZ, and I created this in a time before Spotify. Yes, if you could imagine, there was a time before Spotify. And I had found a way to basically enable people at the time to choose music based on their mood. So I worked with this company to create an algorithm that would sort music by mood based on the tempo and the attitude and whatnot for the music. And you couldn't do that at the time. Now it seems so obvious. I was actually ahead of Spotify. So let's just start there. I didn't end up bringing it to market because I had gotten some other opportunities that I wanted to pursue. But what was so exciting about that opportunity, I created it. I saw that there was a need because I didn't know what music to listen to, but I always knew what mood I wanted to feel as a result of the music. So I kind of flipped music selection on its head at the time because you couldn't find music that way. It was a really great idea. I'm, a little sad that I didn't sort of take it further. But I had some other opportunities that, pulled me away to pursue. So, but that's a great example of if you really want it to happen, you have to sort of put everything else aside and really give that your 100% focus and energy. And then these are just some of my sort of beliefs that I want just as a professional and certainly as a an entrepreneur always embrace, which is you have to walk in your consumer's shoes. So if you're creating a product for somebody else to use, or a service or a capability that you want somebody to engage with, you really need to understand them better than anybody else. So walking in their shoes and knowing everything about their life and why what you're wanting to do for them is important to them becomes really, really important. So walking in your consumer shoes is like a very core belief of mine. And it's always the consumer is always at the heart of everything that I do. Zig when everybody else zags. So that's like a core principle of entrepreneurship, is if everybody else is playing in one space and doing one thing one way, where the entrepreneur wins is sort of zigging, doing something a little bit different and creating a different opportunity, even if it's within that space, to do something different. Casper is a great example of that. They made a bed. A lot of people make beds, but they zigged by saying, oh, what if I can make that bed, roll it up, put it in a box and ship it to your house and make your life easier, that with one click on the internet, you can get a bed sent to your house in 24 hours and eliminate all of that other hassle and turmoil that you have to go through today. So they zigged within a very crowded category to create something new. So I'm a big believer that you have to find that white space, that zig when everybody else is zagging. The next one is never say never. So don't give up. And again, like I said, you're going to have a lot of people that will tell you no. Great example of this is Jeff Bezos. For years, he had Amazon and didn't make money. He did not turn a profit for many, many years, and people thought he was crazy. And he would try all of these different things. He tried to get into the phone business and all these other businesses. He was not making money. He played the long game. And he never gave up, and he never he never put up his hands and he said, okay, no, we're not going to do that. And obviously we know that turned into a great success story, which we all wish to have, but he was really focused on the long game and the long ambition for what he was trying to do with his company. And he has been very, very successful. A lot of times entrepreneurs and even big businesses, they give up too early. And they say the barriers are too hard, or the things that are getting in the way of me succeeding are too difficult to bust through. Entrepreneurs don't give up. They never say never. The other one is, you're going to work with a lot of other people, and hopefully you're going to build teams with other people, and they're going to be really awesome. That's why you're going to want to work with them, is because they're really awesome and they're bringing something new to your venture that you need and that you want. Inspire them. Don't suffocate them. Give them their room and empower them to help you get to the place that you want to get to. That is the best advice I could give you in terms of how to manage other people, is really inspire them and really give them room to bring you great ideas and challenge your thinking and help you get to a better place. And then the last one is always stay curious. I think that what makes entrepreneurs really special is that curiosity and that creativity that they have. And don't ever let that sense of learning and challenging yourself and doing something new and exploring something new ever diminish, because that's where your ideas are going to come from, is that spark and that curiosity and that creativity that you nurture in yourself. And then just, to give you some perspective on what I think are some characteristics of great ideas. So as you start to form your business ideas and your ventures and whatnot, be really simple. The more complicated it is, the harder it is to, one, articulate to other people and therefore get them on board with you. And you really want it to be very simple. Again, Casper, really simple idea. How can I make it easier to get a mattress into your house? Really simple. Right? You really want to think about how you can transform something in whatever category or area that you're working. Again, how do you find that white space, that open opportunity to zig in a category that may be very, very crowded? So transform the way people think, and that's the way you will have some success. I always find, and I'm a business person who leads with a lot of empathy and a lot of heart. So if you and your business idea can help make people feel something, that will also be something that will create, one, it'll be more relevant to people, it'll connect to them better and richer, and you'll eventually build better loyalty because you make people feel things. It's great to make people think with their brains, but if you can make people feel with their heart, that's always a deeper and richer connection. Erase any boundaries. That's where never say never, right? Don't think that barriers are barriers. You want to think of barriers as maybe a momentary obstacle that you're going to break down and then you're going to get through. Are you seductive? That doesn't mean you have to be sexual. What that means is, how are you enticing somebody? How are you telling your story and bringing your brand and your business to life in a way that really sort of engages people in what you're doing and why you're doing it? I'm a big rule breaker. That doesn't mean break the law or anything like that, but how do you like sort of just play outside the conventional wisdom of a category? How do you surprise your consumer in a new way? Again, that's where that whole sort of zig versus zag mentality comes in, is you got to break a little bit of, you got to break a couple of eggs and spill a little bit of milk, but that will help also open up the opportunity to surprise people over and over again. And open your eyes, always keep your aperture open in terms of what's possible. Yes, as an entrepreneur, you need to be really focused. You have to have a clear vision, but don't close yourself off so much that you don't see other possibilities to make your idea bigger, smarter, stronger, so on and so forth. So always keep your eyes a little bit open. That's where having other people on your team to challenge you and bring new ideas and bring new perspective can be really great. That's also where your curiosity comes in, right? Because you're always exploring and you're always building and finding new ways to make your idea better and smarter. And that's the story. I'm going to stop sharing. And we're back. So hopefully there were some nuggets of that were really helpful to people. I don't know, Lauren or Katie, if you want to do questions or wait to the end, you tell me.
So thank you so much for that awesome lecture. We have a section reserved for Q&A at the end, and we have a space for people in the chat to leave questions. So this being said, I'm sure people's heads are buzzing with all the great information you just gave us. Thank you so much for that. And now I would like to pass it off to Mr. T.K. Caetano.
Thank you so much, Caro, for that amazing presentation. I think I really learned a lot, and I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of questions in the end. Thank you, Kate, InnovateX team and Sparkling for inviting me for this event. And thank you everyone for coming. It's an honor, and we are always learning. And to me, you inspire young people, inspire me, and I am definitely inspired by you. And I hope to give you a great presentation today. So Carol introduced this concept of entrepreneurship as imagining the future, right? Me, I'm going to take you back in the past and give you, tell you about entrepreneurship as a reflective process and system, right? So I'm going to talk about the lessons that I learned when I was starting, because I started my first business when I was 15 years old, which is linked to similar age with most of you. So I'm going to take you that part of the lesson that I learned, the challenges that I faced, and also, of course, in the successes. So I'm going to tell you 10 things I wish I knew before I started. Okay. I'm going to start with storytelling. Storytelling is this powerful tool we can use to communicate, to articulate our mission, our vision, our ideas, right? Storytelling creates this feeling inside our customers, inside our investors, inside all other stakeholders, because people relate to stories and people relate to people. Therefore, by creating your business or your initiative around the power of storytelling, it allows you to get into people's hearts, people's minds, and that creates a sense of empathy. People can relate to brands that tell stories. So me, I run a media company, and basically our whole concept is to tell stories. And the power of storytelling really separates uh, businesses from brands, and also like short-term businesses and long-term businesses. So I think as an entrepreneur, as you're starting, you need to have a story. You need to be able to tell and articulate the mission, your vision, and that brings people in. And also I'm going to talk about the importance of design thinking. What is design thinking? Design thinking is this process of finding a need up to creating what you call a minimum viable product, an MVP, right? So as we are starting out, you know, we have a lot of ideas. We are young people, energetic, right? But you can never know if an idea works if you test it. So how do you test it, right? For example, you have an idea of creating a new social network, right? You can never know until like how the people are going to receive that idea unless you test it, right? So you can go out and ask people, you can test out with like 10 people or what, and then from then you can then iterate the idea based on what the feedback that you get from people. So that is what you call need finding, actually going out and discovering the need and testing out, and then you build a minimum viable product. So the process of design thinking is very important for entrepreneurs to start, right? And then the third point is you need to have the right motives. I know like we have a lot of motives or reasons why you wanted to be entrepreneurs. Some people want to make money. Some people just want to fulfill experience that they had before. And some people want to, solve problems. But I think for me, I've discovered like one of the most important motives we can have is to have a mission. If we get into a business or start an entrepreneurial venture that is mission driven, then we are really going to build something for the long term and for the long haul, right? I know it is nice to have money or to go into a business because you want to be the next Jeff Bezos. But, after you have that money, then what's next, So I think if you build your business, mission-driven business, you always have something to look forward to, right? Because most of those missions are infinite, okay? They are built so that they can outlive the founders, right? They can outlive the test of times, okay? Yes, Africa, here's our mission is to empower individuals and businesses through storytelling, okay? So this mission drives us each and every day because we know that there are going to be new generations, there are going to be new times. We all have to tell stories, and it's never ending. And that mission-driven purpose can bring more people into you, can make people understand you, and can even motivate you to do more. So I think it is very important to have a mission-driven purpose from the start. And then the fourth point is, you do not need money to start, but you need money to grow. So I think one of the most challenges about people do not start, most entrepreneurs do not start because they're worried about funding, where I'm going to get the money and all. But the most important thing is that when you have the passion, when you have the drive, then you can do anything, right? Because honestly, you can start small, then build from there. And once you build it then you can start looking for a venture fund later on. But you do not need from the start, like you have an idea and I need to go and get funding. I think it is very important for you first to work on the idea through passion, through iteration and through learning. And then even if you're going to present your idea for funding, then investors are more willing even to appreciate your guts, appreciate your initiative, and appreciate your imagination. So I think it is very important for you to understand that when you start, you do not need money, you just need your heart, your passion, and your vision, and you're good to go, right? And then the fifth point I just want to say is you need luck, but you have to make your own luck, I think when I talk about luck, I want to talk about it's about two important issues. It's a matter of time, opportunity, and even place, right? So sometimes you just have to be at the right time, the right place, and you have the right opportunity to make it, okay? For example, we're in this, very difficult time of, we are facing a global pandemic, right? This is the right time and place and opportunity for you young people to really come up and to show us the world what you have and to really shape the world, okay? So there's never been a time to be an entrepreneur, and there's never been a better time to start. So you have the right time, the right place, and the right opportunity. That is perfect luck for you, right? And then I also want to talk about the importance of knowing the 3 Ps. What do I call the 3 Ps? People, product, and process. So as you are starting, right, I think you need to have an idea of the people you're going to work with, right? And then the people actually make the most decisions and actually drive the process and the product, right? Once you have the products and all, you need to find ways and processes of how you can market it, you can distribute it, you can sell it, right? And that is the process. So I think when you're starting out earlier, it is very important that you do not, a product only is not enough. You need the right people, and you need also the right process to make sure that you sell the product and that product becomes more a success story, right? And then I'm going to talk about the importance of a team, right? In entrepreneurship, no man is an island, meaning that you can never do this alone, right? So you need to bring the right people with the aligned mission. And as I always say, it is very important for you to bring people that are even smarter than you, right? Therefore, by bringing people who are smarter than you, they're able to challenge you, they're able to push the mission forward, right? And it was also important, like, I think during the world we are facing, like, a lot of issues. I think there's been more thrust on diversity and inclusion. So I think you as young people, you need to start thinking about how can I hire a diverse team? How can I include more people from the start? And that you build a culture of inclusion and diversity from the start. And that actually increases our imagination and more ideas. And then the 8th lesson I want to talk about is that it is not about the title, but the impact and mission. I know as young people, I was also like, I was starting out, I was more mesmerized about, I want to be the CEO, I want to be the CEO, I want to be the CTO, I want to be the chairman. It's very good. And right now, if you look at LinkedIn or what, people have titles, CEO, chairman, all the stuff, right? Yes, that's good. But I think it's the work that you do, or as an entrepreneur, it's not about the title. It's not in the title, but in the work, in the vision. So I think it is very important for you to focus more on your role and what you're going to do in a mission rather than the titles. As I always say, it is not about you. It is about the vision. It's about the impact. So as you start, right, do not worry much about, I want to be the CEO, I want to be the CTO and what. You just have to do, just have to play the role and do the work. And the roles will actually, figure themselves out as you go. Because one of the early lessons I studied is like, one of my first business started as like a CEO, right? But with time I discovered, okay, I think I am better enough being maybe a CMO of a company, because that's where like my skills are. I know how to tell stories, I know how to sell products. So I think it's better for me to be like a product officer or a managing officer rather than a CEO, and like bring in someone who can be a better CEO than me. And in the end, they can push the mission, because it's not, titles do not put mission, but the work and the vision pushes mission. So I think you have to think about that as you start. And then the 9th point is about networking, right? Now we are in a networking event, right? Networking is very important as an entrepreneur because you build relationships, right? And once you build relationships, these relationships help to foster opportunities. As I always say, opportunities create more opportunities, right? So you must find a way to engage, to reach out to people, to network with different people, to get different ideas and feedback, right? And I'm glad that we have started on a good note, because this is a networking event and you are meeting different people from all over the world, and you get different perspectives and you get to learn a lot. So networking is very important as an entrepreneur. And then the last point is you have to start now. There is no time for you to wait like, okay, let me wait for the perfect time. There is no perfect time, or there's no perfect idea, right? You build on the ideas, and then with time, you perfect the ideas. So it is very important for you to start now. Start now, start figuring out things, and don't be afraid to fail. Failure is a learning phase. We all fail, and we've all failed as entrepreneurs. And you're always going to fail, and you're always going to learn. The most important thing is to start. and learn and build as you go. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, TK. So next up, Jessica, she will introduce the next speaker.
Yeah, so thank you very much for the inspiring talk. And I think next up we're introducing Alex Choi, Mr. Alex Choi to you, and he's our third speaker today.
Hi everyone, thanks again for the invite, and thanks Carol and TK for the insights. I know they resonated with me and I hope they resonated with a lot of you. So I'm Alex Choi, and today I wanted to talk to you a bit about, how to do things you don't know how to do, since I believe in entrepreneurship. You spend a lot of time sort of doing this. But before I talk about that, I'll quickly give you a bit of background about myself and what I do. So I'm 19 and I've just finished my first year of university at King's College London, where I study economics. But outside of that, outside of studying, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm currently co-founder of a startup that's trying to connect people through sports. And but for me, my entrepreneurial story sort of started when I was about 13, when I got my first iPod Touch for my birthday. And this sort of started an interest for me in technology and apps, as they were sort of becoming a hit then. And every week there was a new mobile game that everyone was playing. Before that, mobile games were really basic. And for some reason, I just had this drive to sort of create my own apps, my own sort of software, but I had absolutely no idea how. And I actually joined a coding club in my school. Back then, coding clubs weren't very popular. Luckily, I know now for you guys, they're much more, they're many more. And, not many people went to it, but I didn't really learn anything. And it was only at a very basic level. So I knew that if I wanted to learn how to make apps, I'd have to do it myself. So I went on YouTube to learn how, but back then, being 13, I was very confused by sort of these, YouTube tutorials. And it took me ages to find a method that actually allowed me to learn to code. Most of the people who were doing these tutorials were sort of proper software engineers. So maybe they're teaching, they didn't know how to teach as well, but they were really good. But I struggled to learn from their explanations. So yeah, I found that really challenging. Another similar experience was that after learning to code and I started to make basic games, I met many other teenagers who were doing the same. And it was great. I finally felt that I was part of a community after spending so much time trying to teach myself something. So that gave me inspiration a few years later to start doing conferences. When I was about 15 to 16, I was much more interested in sort of the business side of like tech startups. I sort of wanted to meet other young people sort of setting up companies. And I was amazed by how many teenagers I met online doing something like this. Like I met a guy who, he had a Minecraft business. I didn't even know that was a thing. And he made like $100,000 just out of making stuff on Minecraft. And, I just thought, how do you make money out of that? And I thought, what he told me, I thought everyone would want to know. So I started conferences, I had speakers like him, but I had no idea how to do conferences. Like, do you need insurance? What are the venue fees, fire safety regulations, child safeguarding regulations? I had no idea. Or even, if you make an event free, what percentage of those people are actually going to show? I didn't have the experience, but unlike coding, there's not really many YouTube tutorials for, how to start conferences. Even my dad told me then, like, don't run conferences that are really financially risky, but I just had the urge to do it. I just wanted to learn. And I sort of learned by doing for that, by conferences. And, we launched an initial one with 100 people, and 2 years later, we'd done them in cities worldwide, like New York, Houston, Hong Kong. So it was really good. So what I want to share with you now is the key characteristics I think you need to take into account when trying to do something like that, to do something completely new that you have no idea how to do. And the first thing I think is sort of the importance of setting milestones. And that sounds simple, but for me, it took way longer to learn coding by myself than I might have done in a proper app development class, being on my own. I didn't have classmates coding with me or anyone to hold me to account. I'm sure all of you are highly motivated since you're watching this, But, you know, when you're on your own without any like close goals, you know, that are achievable in like the next month or two, it can be hard to make progress, even if you're super so self-motivated. So, you know, when you're in school, you have a teacher telling you what to learn and when, like when you have to finish your homework, this, that. But when you're learning something on your own, it's up to you to decide. You can always put it off. When I wanted to learn coding, there were a lot of things I wanted to learn that I couldn't learn it all at once. You know, app development's a big thing. And, you know, I had to set clear milestones where I wanted to be. For me, that was Saturday afternoons each week where I'd set a time, which is like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it now. Because, you know, there was a period where I was always procrastinating. I'm like, oh, you know, I've got homework, too much homework this week, you know, I want to watch a film, this, that. But, you know, I think to be an entrepreneur, having that sort of holding yourself to account, which, you know, you're not going to have someone telling you you have to do it by then. You really have to think about, I'm going to do it then. And I think the best way to do that, the easiest way to do that, is to really set like time goals. If you're going to do it, you know, this month, like if you want to start a film production company, maybe say to yourself you're going to master a certain special effect in a certain time period. These will keep you on track long term, and I think that's key. Another thing is selective information. Unlike school, when you're trying to learn something yourself, there's no curriculum or syllabus. I guess like many of you, you're doing exams. I did IGCSEs and A-levels, which is like the UK university entrance exams. And when I was doing it at the beginning of the course, I was given a textbook, and none of my classmates or I picked up this huge textbook. What we all did though is we all read the revision guide, which was about 20% the size of the textbook, and we still got top marks in the exam. That goes to show that in the textbook, there's a lot of information you don't actually need for the exam. And I think this can transfer to entrepreneurship, because imagine if you're learning something online and there's no syllabus. There's going to be so much information out there which is not directly related to what you need to know. And I'm not saying background knowledge is really important, but what I am saying is that you need to be direct about what you want to achieve, because otherwise there's so much stuff out there that can distract you so fast. For example, I didn't like my school coding class because they didn't teach us the code needing to make mobile games. Although the information was useful, it wasn't directly related. Like a lot of universities and schools, they teach Python as a coding language, for any of you that know that, which is actually a really useful language for learning to code, but it's not the one I wanted to learn. So, and you probably wouldn't use it in a tech startup for many. So I guess when you are learning, be careful and really focus on what you want to know. The revision guide can get you all the way. And I guess the third way is using communities. And I think TK mentioned this earlier. You know, when I learned to code and I met other people doing the same, it was a real turning point for me, because I was able to meet other young people doing the same thing that gave me courage that it was even possible to create intricate software at such a young age. And I know all of you are here together, and I hope, you know, through sort of these programs, you sort of get to know each other and you sort of form a community, you know, this isn't unique to my situation. Like if you want to be a young filmmaker, there are probably lots of Facebook groups you can join with people doing the same. You can sort of see what other people are doing, what's possible, and it can really help to motivate you, particularly when you're doing something by yourself. And yeah, like for me, when I was like meeting other, you know, young programmers, and I talked to you about the Minecraft guy, I was like, you know, I want to be like him. I want to show that I can create innovative things just like this and show off creativity. And, you know, maybe in school, I'm sure a lot of you want your parents to be proud of you and stuff like that, or your friends to be proud of you. You know, I wanted to make the community proud, and I'm sure you might want to do that as well. So utilize your connections, Facebook, LinkedIn, there's loads of places where you can build communities through these sorts of organizations. Use them, they'll definitely help. And finally, don't be afraid when sort of things go wrong. And I know a lot of like entrepreneurship videos, they talk about failure and stuff, so I don't want to be too cliche, but the worst thing you can try to do, in my opinion, is to hide when things go wrong. And this was a bit of a problem for me at the start, because I think you really need to be honest with yourself and others about what worked when you do something. So I actually once tried to start like a clothing fashion brand, which wasn't really my thing, because I had a friend she claimed she was making like $1,000 a month out of like this online clothing store, and all she did was sort of put these like slogans on the front of shirts. And I thought, you know, this is a really cool project. I want to do this myself and sort of see, you know, if I can pull this off. But when I tried it, it didn't really go to plan. And I realized later on that, you know, I wasn't passionate at all about this. I don't really like clothes. I don't know anything about clothes. I just wanted to make, you know, some quick cash, but that's not really what entrepreneurship is about, which I'm sure you've heard. And, you know, at the time, I was constantly trying to make it work, but I just wasn't honest about with myself that it wasn't working. And or that wasn't my passion. So I think it's really key to be honest with yourself when a project's not working. Some entrepreneurs try to sort of save face and say it's not working, but I think it's really key, because even if you're not honest with others, I think part of that makes you not honest with yourself about what's working. So for me, I always found I want to be direct with people about what's going well, what's not, because otherwise people can't help you if you don't tell them. So I think that's really key, and it's definitely a really hard thing to do, but I think, you know, that can be a great quality that you have if you do that. And at the same time, I don't mean don't try like things that you feel scared about. Like if you're not 100% sure, I think still do it 100%. Like I wouldn't have known that clothing and fashion wasn't for me if I hadn't done it. So I still think do it, but I think when you know like inside that it's not for you, or you know that you want to go a different path, like don't hold back. So yeah, and also just on that, like I think TK mentioned this slightly as well, utilize your youth. And that might sound cringy, but you know, when you're a teenager, you don't have financial responsibilities or other commitments, so that, you know, it's the age to take a risk a bit. I mean, I meet a lot of people who say, you know, they want to wait till after their exams, they want to wait until after university to set up a business. You know, that's a cycle that's easy to fall into. And you know, I think if you don't take the jump soon enough, you might it's harder as it gets older. I think, I mean, even going into university, I feel, you know, that although there's more freedom in terms of time, there's other commitments, there's lots of socializing. So I think definitely when you're in school, it's a great chance to get the foot in the door, because you know, I think there's a time to take a risk, because I mean there's not, I mean, the only consequences is a bit of financial loss, but I think yeah, I definitely don't regret any of the things I've started in school. You know, like now, although the tech startup I run now was not the one I started in school, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if it wasn't for what I had done then. So even if you do try like launch a business, launch something in school and it doesn't go to plan, it will set you up for like, so that you'll gain so many skills for like doing something afterwards. So yeah, like I'm only 19, you know, I've done a TEDx talk, I've been shortlisted for like UK Young Entrepreneur things, and yeah, I've organized conferences worldwide, traveled and met so many young entrepreneurs around the world. And I guess what I've learned is that, you know, no matter your age, you can sort of achieve these things. You can, like the Minecraft guy, he had no idea before he did it he would ever achieve that much success playing a video game. So you can, and that's achievable by anyone. Like, so I say, don't wait for anything, and yeah, don't believe your age is a restriction. And thank you.
Thank you, Alex, for sharing. And now I think we have like 2 questions from the audience. So for the first one that we've got here is a question to our panelists. How should youth pursue an interest in business?
Yeah, this question is open to any of our panelists. So how should young entrepreneurs first take their first step, and how should they approach starting their own business?
Okay, I'll take this first. I think right now, we're already taking the first step, because I think learning is a very important part of entrepreneurship, right? So I think you can learn from reading, you can learn from talking to people, And right now we're networking, right? You are learning from everyone here, like people talking and from this session. So this is how you can start igniting that entrepreneurship mindset and the energy within you, by just staying, getting involved and increasing your knowledge base and learning. And then this will inspire you, because the most important thing is to be motivated and inspired to start.
Yeah, and just building on that, because I agree. I think being a part of groups like this is also a great way. Obviously, you get to connect with peers and other people who are pursuing interests. I think taking classes, to Alex's point, taking classes and then self-motivating yourself to want to learn something new is a great way to do that. And I think the other thing is just sort of finding your passion. Like, what are you interested in? And then trying to find vehicles and avenues and ways to sort of feed that passion, so that you can either end up deciding, oh, that really is what I want to do, or maybe you'll find you put energy into it and that really wasn't what you really wanted, and you'll discover something else along the way. Again, that's where that curiosity comes in. So I think you guys are already on a great path. I have to say, I'm really impressed with both Alex and TK. You guys are very impressive young people that shared some really great, insightful advice that I know people in my age group aren't even smart enough to understand. So bravo to both of you.
Thank you so much, Carol.
Sorry, I think we have time for one more really quick question. Jessica?
Yeah, so we have another question asking, how can startup increase the visibility of their product to consumers with relatively low funding?
Emily or gang, FaceTime.
I would say here, one of the things, and this is a challenge that every entrepreneur faces, right? They don't have money. But one of the things that you all have that many other people don't have is you have networks of friends, and you have networks of people through social media that you can connect with. And I think that that's the greatest way that young entrepreneurs can sort of build a presence and an awareness of their story and tell their stories is through social media, through your social networks. Most of that doesn't cost anything, right? It's just connecting with people and pushing your message out. Yes, sometimes you want to put a little bit of money behind something to boost a post or whatever, but most of the time you don't. And I think if you do have a great idea that you want to expose, the other thing, and this is what big businesses do, they expose their ideas to, influencers of all sorts and kinds, expose them to it, send them a free one, whatever the case may be, and get those people to talk about your business and your idea. So I always like to sort of say, how do you borrow an audience to get your exposure? You have friends, you have other people within your social networks that you connect with. There are tons of influencers out there. How can you tap into that and borrow those audiences, if you will, to be your advocates to tell your story? And you have many opportunities to do that given the power of social media today.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much to all of our panelists for coming out today, sharing your advice and experiences for our young entrepreneurs. So we will start wrapping up. And Lauren?
Yes, I would just also like to say thank you so much to our panelists. So what some of the audience members may not realize is that our panelists came from all over. So for example, Alex is currently in London, Carol is currently in New York, and TK Kaitana is currently in Palo Alto. And so these people were just really committed to sharing their entrepreneurial spirit with you guys, and they took time out of their day to do that. And so this being said, we are so grateful for their support. They gave really great lectures to us today that I know I personally took a lot away from, and I'm so excited to implement some of those strategies. We learned so much from you guys, and we're so grateful for your time and your expertise. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it. But that being said, we really want to respect everybody's time, so we're going to duck off now. But thank you guys so much for attending, and thank you so much, panelists, for sharing your wisdom.
Thank you.